Hello again, this is Local Tico Brohe. This time we are bringing you a Magic Archer run with Daggers. Because of that, we are only going to be using Daggers. However, we do not have the Flameshrouds, the physical daggers, only elemental daggers this time. So we have various elemental daggers for that, one of every element. We are using the trophy set. The gloves give us stamina when we kill things. The chest reduces the duration we have debilitations. The boots, I want to say, give us some equip load. Rings-wise, we have Barbed nails for Stagger Knockdown. We have the Magic Archer's Band for an improvement to Shadowshackle and Immolate. And we have the Iris Band to prevent us from getting frozen. The Rose Ring to prevent us from catching fire. Restless Ring to prevent us from falling asleep when fighting death. And then the Ring of Desiccation to prevent Drenched. Abilities, only dagger abilities, so Shadowshackle, Immolate, Magic Rebalancer, and of course for those two abilities we have upgrades for. And then for augments we have Clout and Acuity for Magic and Strength, Autonomy for Magic, Strength, and Defenses, and then Awareness and Bastion for, once again, Magic and Defense, or Magic and Physical Defenses, and then finally Adhesion to prevent us getting thrown off when we are climbing. Getting started with the run in the Garden of Ignominy. We can't hear goblins, which means we know we have siren, or not the sirens, the saurians. There is a siren, however. Shadowsnare's not overly valuable this far away. Saurian are weak to ice, so you see we have the Shield Razors out. Magic Rebalance is going to increase our magic damage. It works like a parry apt. It doesn't... it just kind of increases the damage as a whole. It's not... The modifier doesn't work in any, like, sneaky way. We can already hear that death is spawned, so that's cool. A important thing to note, the Siren is weak to dark, so we'll switch there. But the important thing to note is that this character is unusually leveled for my runs. Usually if I'm playing as a vocation, I level exclusively as that vocation until the end. However, that is not what happened this time. For this character, what we did is we leveled as Sorcerer. 10 levels of Mage, 190 levels of Sorcerer. And the thought process of this character is I wanted to see how much damage we could do using elemental weapons, like the physical elemental weapons, exclusively after leveling to have the highest magic stat we could possibly obtain. We are starting the runs with this character as Magic Archer because it would fundamentally be easier simply because it has magic damage in its kit. That makes sense. So that is why we are beginning here. You'll see ample use of Magic Rebalancer. Another note, I know it's been a while since I released my last video. My wife and I are in the process of moving. We are moving about 6 hours away from where we currently live. And it is a process. At the moment, I am out of my previous house, but not into the new one. So I have not been able to stream. I have not been able to work on these videos very much, just because I've been too busy trying to satisfy the needs of moving. Here we'll put the Restless Ring on to give us 100% sleep resistance so that we can hit death. Ultimately, because we don't have physical damage, and death appears to be weaker to physical than he is in magic. But because we don't really have any good damage in general to hit death with, having the sleep resistance ring is important because it allows us to hit him more consistently, whereas if we didn't have that, we would have to run out every time we use the lantern attack, which means we kind of hit him about close to probably half of what we do at the moment. It's not like it doesn't really save our bacon in any way, shape, or form, because we could very easily avoid the lantern. It just speeds up the process immensely, is all. Not having to run out every time. Now we only have to run out if he does the side. So, As you see, we have the Sapfire daggers equipped. They have our highest physical stat. Another cool thing about the Sapfire daggers that the other daggers do not have is it also applies a Debilitation. It has a defense reduction debuff to targets that it hits, that are susceptible to it at least, after a number of hits. So there's a few times where we will choose to use these daggers over others simply because of that Debilitation. A good example is actually the Poisoned Undead are weak to both fire and holy. We could use either dagger and they would work fine. The difference is because we get the physical damage debilitation, or physical defenses debilitation on the target with these daggers, we choose these because after a certain point we start dealing more damage than we would with the Heaven's Keep. Here we're going to switch back to the Chilling Razors, because we're going to have 2 Saurian in this final little section here. Unfortunately, because Death spawned so early, it did not give us a Chimera. The Chimera is exceedingly easy to kill, though. All we do is climb onto the goat, hit it with the Chilled Razors, because the Gore Chimera is weak to ice. We just hop on top, hit it with the daggers a little bit. It dies very quickly. We pop off of it because once the goat's dead, we don't deal any damage to the goat any longer. But we immediately dismount, and then we run to the lion's face, and we just hit the lion before it stands up. It's an exceptionally easy kill. So the fact that we didn't get to showcase it here is a little bit disappointing, but it's overall such a simple fight that it's also uninteresting. In the sense of, like, let me showcase this. I don't think it's a boring fight by any means. It's just, it's not something exceedingly cool. But that'll be the first room, successful. This run is not a no-hit, as evidence. Because it's not a no-hit, we're allowed to pick up curatives, and we'll use them. The fact of the matter is we leveled up. Here we have the Galvanized Razors for the, it's for the Gargoyles. There we do the Lightning. But because we leveled as a Sorcerer, we have, frankly, terrible defenses. So, pretty much everything really hurts when it hits us. And it's hard to stay alive. We also have really low maximum health, because again, we leveled as Sorcerer. We also don't have very high stamina, but that's less relevant for most of the fight, just because we're not using abilities all that much. We were a single hit away from killing that guy. Fortunately, we did not get debilitated. I don't believe we have 100% Debilitation resistance, so that was kind of like, I think we're at 60%, so us not getting debilitated is a little bit of a dice roll. Here you see me switch to Sapfires. They just have the highest physical stat. They deal fire damage, which isn't the worst thing against these guys. Realistically, there's no good elemental damage to these guys. You just want something that has the highest amount of, like, impact. So, we go with the Sapfires just because the high physical value. If I didn't have the limitation of only using elemental weapons, I would elect to use the Flameshroud Blades against this guy, even with my goofy low strength stat. Just because the Flameshroud Blades will just have higher strength on the daggers themselves, which is the valuable portion. So, if you haven't been trying to think about how I'm going to kill this thing, this The method that we pretty much have to use is we climb on the tail. And we knock it down. Realistically, I should be climbing up to the heart to hit it. I'm kind of being a little silly here. Because if I climb all the way up to the heart and hit the heart one time, it'll fall off. It'll fall to the ground, guaranteed. Obviously, we can knock it down that way. The problem is, here, if I hit the heart, it's going to stand up immediately. So what I should have done is climbed up, hit the heart with the dagger, have it fall, then cast Immolate and climb back on. But that's okay. Now, Immolate. Immolate's a very interesting spell. Immolate is impacted by the magic stat. Here we're jumping so that we avoid the shake, because the shake will actually get rid of some of our stamina. But Immolate's an interesting spell because it does fire damage, but it also does overwhelmingly physical damage. So when we use Immolate, obviously we're using the Sapfire Daggers, which kind of makes sense. Fire Daggers, fire ability. However, the reason we use the Sapfire Daggers isn't because of the fire damage. The Sapfire Daggers have our highest physical stat. If I had the Flamé Blades, the Flamé Blades would actually likely deal more damage. Considerably more damage than Immolate. What's also nice is Immolate deals damage to things that are only vulnerable to physical damage. To that effect, it'll deal damage to our living armor friends. But what's cool about it is it also still does magic damage, because it does deal elemental physical damage, which is like super weird. I don't really know how it's broken up mathematically by the game. So if someone knows better than I, which I'm sure someone does, but if someone knows better than I, they'll note, or they should definitely share that information, because I don't really understand the math behind how Immolate works between physical and elemental / magic, whatever. But Immolate, which we don't have the ring on. If we had the ring on, it would have done even more damage than it did. That's kind of a mistake on my part. But Immolate is just an amazing ability for Magic Archer if you're going to be fighting things in melee, because it literally will deal damage to everything. The drawback, of course, is that it deals damage to you as well. Now, on what I would consider a more casual run, that's less concerning, because curatives exist. Things like that, which is why we're willing to use it here. If you've seen me do like my no-hit runs and whatnot, you'll know I definitely don't use Immolate, because dealing the damage to myself I don't like. It's just not the way I play, obviously. Yeah, see here, it took significantly fewer hits for two reasons. One, we had Immolate running that time, which obviously means we're going to be dealing a little bit more damage. Feels bad. We're going to be dealing a little bit more damage just per second, by virtue of the fact that the fire is ticking as well. But when you break the heart, it has been my experience that upon breaking the heart, when you try and stagger it the next time, it's often a lot easier than it was the first time. Now, a point to note, because we are fighting a dragon, we brought the Iris and the Rose Rings. The Rose Ring prevents us from catching fire, like getting the fire debilitation, I mean. We can still take fire damage. It's not 100% fire resistance or anything. We just will not catch on fire. The Iris Ring will prevent us from physically freezing. Again, we can still take ice damage, but we can physically not, we can't physically be frozen. The reason I brought that up while we're fighting this dragon is because if we had fought the Fire Drake, we would be equipping the Rose Ring so that when I fight him, I don't accidentally catch fire when I get close to his heart. Because We can avoid all of his damage except for the fire aura damage from his body. From being close to his mouth or his heart or whatever. That damage is not that bad. It's like a single point of damage, or it's a couple points. I don't remember. It's not very high though. That's the point. It is not a very high amount of damage. However, if I stay close to that for too long, I can catch on fire, and that will deal a good amount of damage to me, so because it just stays active for a higher duration than, you know, than the single tick of fire damage every couple seconds. I will lose like a couple hundred health generally, and we only have about, I think it's like 3,100 health is our max health. It's not very good. I mean, if we look at our health right now, we're at 1735. If we double that, we're at what? 34? Yeah. So I guess we have about 3,500 health. Because we're about half, right? So we probably have about 3,500 health, which is not high, but you have to remember that we have less effective health because we also have low defenses. So when we get hit by things, not only do we not have a, you know, mass amount of, you know, maximum health, we also take more damage per hit. So avoiding catching fire is exceptionally valuable. And it looks like I was correct the first time. I don't know why my math was super bad. I don't know why my math was really bad, because we're at 29 and we only have a sliver left. So yeah, I think I was right the first time. I think it's 31. Oh, what did it just say there? Yeah, there's the debilitation, by the way. Was that 3085? Is that what the total maximum health was? I don't know. I'm sure we'll see it at some point later. I do not hear ghosts, so that means we have the skeletons. Realistically, I should have put the heaven keys on anyway, because it doesn't actually matter which configuration we get. We want them. The two options here are ghosts or skeletons. Skeletons are weak to holy. Undead are weak to holy and fire, but skeletons, like the fleshy undead characters, but skeletons are not. They're weak to holy. Not that the fire would be bad, but it's just not as valuable. Now here we should have had our ring on to upgrade Shadowshackle to, what is it called? Shadowsnare, I want to say. The reason that's valuable is it's larger. So here we actually managed to catch all of these because I place it just perfectly. But it's actually a very tight space to get that perfect drop off, and I don't usually get that, so that was kind of nice to have. But it is, it would be smart of me to put on the other ring. But we'll see what I do. Panacea we want. There's a lot of things that are going to debilitate us in this run, potentially. And we'll want that cleanse. At this point, we were still looking for gear for other runs, because like I said, this character was intended to do all of the physical vocations with elemental weapons, and so we wanted weapon of the rings. Yeah, Shadowsnare. Look at how much larger that is. You can have 2 Shadowshackles and Shadowsnares out at a time. Now, here I should have switched to the Sapfire Daggers. The only reason I would elect to use the Heaven's Key is because I want to recover health back with the Holy Cross. But we, as you can see, have no recoverable health at the moment. Because you can only heal back the white health that you have. The missing health that's white, not the missing health that is gray. Or transparent, whatever we want to call that. So me having the Heaven's Keys out here is kind of not valuable. If I had the Sapphire Daggers, it would be slightly quicker. But it is just that. It is only slightly quicker, so we're not hating it, I guess I should say. It is not the worst thing that we don't have the, what I would say, correct choice equipped. It only shaves off, in that entire fight against 3 of them, we'd maybe shave off 10 seconds. So it's not crucial, especially since we are equipping, we would want to equip the Holy Daggers for the next fight anyway. Now, the next fight here is a Gold and Silver Knight. The Gold and Silver Knights actually have different weaknesses than Holy. They are weak to Holy, but the Silver Knight, I want to say, is weak to Fire, and the Golden Knight is weak to Ice. I might have that backwards. I always kind of forget. However, once again, they are weak to Holy, so we don't actually have to know their weaknesses particularly well, because we'll succeed. I should have been using a Shadowsnare there. I think that was an accident. What I'll probably do is run up here and Shadowsnare. Yeah. Shadowsnare was strangely... Whoa! So, Shadowsnare won't snare that guy for whatever reason. I don't know what the issue is. He had to, like, leave it and come back before it snared him. There are certain times where, like, while they're casting, I can't CC them, so Shadowsnare won't grab them while they are casting. Or, yeah, while they're casting, like when they slam their shield down to cast a spell. But usually, after they finish their cast, they'll get snared immediately. Instantly. I don't know why he just kind of resisted it there. He's just a boss, I guess. Now, at this stage of the run, we're about 20 minutes in to the run proper. And, I'm kind of eyeing that clock, because the next room can take a while. I want to complete the next room before we hit the 40-minute mark. Which we have about 20 minutes to accomplish that, because we only have one poisoned undead in here. The reason I am interested in completing the run before I hit that 40, or not the run, but the next room, the Midnight Helix, before we hit that 40-minute mark, is because if we hit 40 minutes, somewhere around there, that is when the day cycle, the day-night cycle will turn over to the next day. When that happens, we have the possibility that the room that we just were in, Midnight Helix, when we come back into it, all of the like, I guess, elite enemies, I would say, will have a chance to respawn, or likely will. So all of those poison undead, those giant skeletons we fought, all of those are going to respawn. And there is nothing I can do about it. I'll have to just kill them all over again. And that's why I want to make sure I finish within 40 minutes. I don't know that the day-night cycle is actually 40 minutes. It's probably closer to like 45 or 50. The difference here is that I rested a few times and had to travel from where I rested to get to this place, as well as we have a checkpoint save that's at a very specific time. So I know 40 minutes about is where it is between when you finish resting, make it over here, and then fight. As you see, Flameshroud, the Frostworm is weak to physical damage, more so than anything else. Yes, here you'll see I put on the Iris Ring because I don't want to get frozen. That's unfortunate. Yes, it's weak to physical damage, and as we discussed before, Immolate deals physical damage, as well as fire, but it deals physical damage. That's why we're absolutely churning through this guy. If we had gotten the Prisoner Door Cyclops, we would have had a considerably harder time. Because we didn't, we're very, very happy. Next, you'll see we'll switch to the Chilled Razors. Or we should. Because the Chilling, I should say. We should switch to that because the Strigoi we're going to fight are weaker to ice than anything else we have. Immolate does a lot of carrying of the team on this run, I will say. I don't generally like to use Immolate. I don't think it's a bad move, don't get me wrong. I just don't like taking damage if I can avoid taking damage. And I physically can't avoid taking damage against Immolate. That was a pretty cool trick. If you just throw anything at these guys when they're flying towards you, or if they're just in the air, if you hit them with anything, they will fall, and then you can Shadowshackle them. You can also Shadowshackle them if they grab you. But if they just fly through your Shadowshackle, they won't get snared. But if they grab you, and then you like wiggle out, I want to say, they'll get stuck as well, if I remember correctly. But obviously what we do is we just try and throw a crate at them, or a jug, or what have you. It just speeds up the process. We can kill them without that, but it's just the likelihood we get grabbed is higher. Getting them stuck in one point is very tricky. I don't know how we missed his tail there, because you don't have to hit like his body. You can hit his tail and it'll knock him down. I don't know how we didn't hit him there. I guess just the angle of the ramp was not conducive to our efforts. But that's okay. I think my brain went on autopilot and broke that crate. I probably meant to pick it up, but that's okay. I was behind that guy and he still got me. I like rolled through him, was behind him, and he still hit me. Yeah, even without knocking him down, you see our damage is quite good with the ice daggers. If we were using any other set of daggers, it's not as good, but it's okay. Just don't even worth it. Yeah. Another option we could have had is we could have grabbed that crate that's right outside that cell, and we could have thrown it at him. Okay, we have Cursed Dragon. So that's going to be a splat. I should have tried to land on the ledge that I was at, but that's okay. I do want to be higher in health, simply because it's not unlikely that this guy deals a good amount of damage to me. I don't know why I switched to the... I mean, I guess the Holy Daggers are good. The Sapfires would have been fine. I'm pretty sure we can debilitate this dragon. That might be incorrect. I don't remember. I don't like that he flew into the air, though. Normally, I would be happy with that as a Magic Archer, because it's super easy to knock him down, and then I could explode the... what is it called? I could explode the... Explosive Rivet. That's the ability I was looking for. My brain was just lagging. But normally I would like that as a Magic Archer, but here I don't have a bow, because we're elemental daggers only. But that's okay. The Cursed Dragon is probably my favorite dragon to fight, because it has the, in my opinion, best pattern. The pattern isn't all that different than the other dragons. The difference is it doesn't have like an aura on its chest to prevent you from using the pattern. The heart is also in a nice position. You can bait it into certain attacks. Very consistent. Now, there we use the Shadowsnare. The reason we Shadowsnared was not because we wanted to get the snare off, because we can't actually snare things that are that big. However, when things that are that big are in our Shadowsnare, what happens instead of getting snared is they get torpored. And having him torpored is valuable because it gives me a lot more time to hit him before he tries to shake me off, before he does his grab. It just gives me options that I don't necessarily get otherwise. Like, see how long it's taking him to go from his recovery, or to do his recovery animation after whipping the grab? Like, that was so long. Here, he hasn't fallen. It took him like 2.5 seconds just to hit the deck. now because he's fallen and he's still torpored, it's going to take longer for him to get up. And very effective. See, that was a Hearthspud right there. I should have probably picked that up. Hearthspud sauce. Or it might have been Hearthspud juice. Oh well. I will probably pick up the stamina curatives over here. Oh, I guess I don't. Interesting. But yes, we're at about the 30 minute mark. A little less than that for the run itself, because we had that video at the start for the gear. So about a minute and a half of our run is before we actually get started. But we're about 30 minutes into the run, which means none of this stuff respawns. So we're pretty happy. We could have had a Elder Ogre spawn here. If we had an Elder Ogre spawn the first time through, we could still have an Elder Ogre spawn the second time. We didn't have it either time, which is nice. Before I started my move, my last streams were me trying to get an assassin run completed. And we were having crazy bad luck where every time we went into that room, we would have the Elder Ogre spawn. And then it would spawn again on our way back out. Like, it was just rough. That run is actually a really fun run, the assassin one. It's the same kind of run, elemental daggers. Or not elemental daggers, it's elemental weapons. We're allowed to have the dragon's iron bow. But it's still a really fun run. The problem with it is Garm are pretty dangerous, and even more so Elder Ogres are dangerous. Everything else we can kind of handle. That being said, Daemon's fun. But we can handle Daemon. But yeah, Elder Ogre just keeps killing us with like a random one-shot. Because again, we have really bad defenses. Because we're running the same setup. 100% Sorcerer and Mage doesn't give us a really good stat profile for being a physical location. And if I mess up one time against the Elder Ogre after it enrages, I just instantly die. That has been my experience. I did not jump off of that in time. Generally, you want to jump off by either just letting go, or if not letting go, you want to like actually physically jump to avoid the shake, because the shake takes out a huge chunk of stamina. And I already don't have very high stamina. Sorcerer, leveling as Sorcerer does not yield a very good amount of stamina. The yellow vocations yield the good stamina gains. Which, fortunately, for how we are playing this run, we have one move that I buff, so I don't have to spam it other than when I first use it. Shadowsnare, which lasts, I don't actually know how long it lasts, so probably somewhere close to like 45 seconds. But Shadowsnare, which lasts a good duration, but I only have to use it like once, maybe twice per fight. And then Immolate, which I also don't have to use but once per fight, and it lasts, well, once or twice per fight, and it lasts a good number of seconds. So with this setup, we're actually not a very stamina intensive location. The problem is when I climb, I lose stamina quickly, and I don't have a good setup for maintaining my stamina. Look at how much damage that did for those ticks. So here I'm getting, I was going to use the word thrown off, but I could have actually gotten physically thrown off during that. What I meant by thrown off is, like, my timing is thrown off because he's torpored. You can jump and avoid the breath when he does it, and he won't throw you off. Like, he won't knock you off of his body. And saying thrown off there is confusing my own brain. Oh well. But yeah, you can jump to kind of avoid the breath that comes out, and you won't get knocked off of his body. You can re-hold onto him and deal a little bit more damage. But because he was torpored, I didn't really know the timing for it. So what has ended up happening is I tried to dodge it by that method twice, and we didn't succeed because I just did it too early both times. And then eventually I just let go. Or rather, the second time, because I realized I had missed the timing, I just decided to land behind him. Hey, Soulless Boy. My puppy just walked into the room. So as you saw at the beginning, we had the Ring of Desiccation in our inventory. We didn't actually have the Ring of Desiccation in our inventory during this run, though. When I say earlier, I mean when we did the little gearing video at the start. We get the Ring of Desiccation during this run, so now we will have it the rest of the way. Fortunately, it's not valuable before this point anyway, so it's totally fine. Vault of Defiled Truth, pretty easy. Garm are the scary thing that can happen in here. The Ranger Pawns, if we have the Cockatrice configuration, are also a little bit annoying, but not scary. We do have that configuration, so that's nice. Death is the carrion beast that can spawn in this room. I don't know how expectant I am of whether we fight him early or late in the room. I might try to avoid him until the end. I don't really remember what we do. The thing is, we are melee, right? We don't have a bow, which makes things a little bit difficult. So the Cockatrice is not weak to fire. It is vulnerable to fire, but it is not truly weak. Its weakness is actually lightning. However, our fire daggers just have better damage in general. They just do. That physical stat on it, because it's not a resistance to physical damage enemy. The difference between the Sapfire daggers and the galvanized razors is big enough that maintaining the Sapfire daggers is just nicer. And what's more is the Cockatrice isn't really the scariest enemy, so we deal good damage to it. For whatever reason, I thought I heard death spawn in there, but I don't hear the music, so I guess I didn't. Today is a stormy day up here in North Florida. So if you guys start hearing some thunder in the background, or my dog whining, because he does not like thunder, I apologize. I will try my best to edit it out, but... we shall see. There are 3 Ranger Pawns. We deal pretty good damage, as you can see, so we just need the opportunity to hit them. Okay, so there's only one left. The columns here will usually give you some cover, so you just wait until he uses this ability, and then you just slap him. Now, we can climb down faster by... Ooh, there was some thunder. We can climb down faster by hanging on this ledge and then dropping. We won't take fall damage so long as you're not, like, the absolute shortest height. Grab the King Wash, of course. I generally won't choose that route if Death has spawned. Because Death hasn't spawned yet, we can do the drop down there. If Death was already there, doing the drop down there, a lot of times he'll get stuck up in that upper balcony area, which obviously means we can't hit him. But additionally, like, he'll swing his scythe or do his lantern, and I usually don't have 100% sleep resistance, so falling asleep is dangerous, of course, but also his scythe is pretty dangerous. So I generally won't go for that drop down strat to get down unless I know Death is not there, because it will mess them up. These guys are weak to physical damage. I can use Immolate on them. It is not even a bad decision. It's just not a necessary one. And Immolate deals damage to me. Obviously, I'd be hard-pressed to say that Immolate is ever necessary, of course. However, we use Immolate when things are resistant to magic and also have a higher value of health. It just speeds up fights considerably, and in a circumstance where enemies are dangerous, such as Bitterblack Isle, having Immolate that deals damage to us is beneficial anyway, because it speeds up the fight enough that we are less concerned about the damage we'll take from having to fight them for a longer amount of time and possibly getting hit, especially since, once again, as I've said multiple times, we have really bad defenses. Our magic defense is okay, but our physical defense is... it's not impressive, I'll say that. It actually isn't terrible, because we are using Bitterblack armor level 2 gear, you know. I say gear, I shouldn't say gear when I'm talking about Bitterblack level 2 stuff, but Bitterblack armor level 2 attire, I suppose. And that is actually pretty good, but it just doesn't make a huge difference. Look at how good Immolate is. What is that? Like, honestly. And the reason it's that high in damage is, again, because it deals magic and physical, like, at the same time, but, like, the math is, like, it combines that number into one value and then just does that amount of damage. From what I can tell, it's really weird. What's cool about it, though, is using Magic Rebalancer, despite the fact that it does immense physical damage, Magic Rebalancer will improve the amount of damage you're dealing with Immolate. And it will improve the amount of damage you're dealing with Immolate against enemies that are only vulnerable to physical damage. So the math on it is really just, I don't understand how it works. And again, if you guys know, please tell me in the comments. It doesn't really matter, which is why, like, I'm talking about something and saying I don't know how it works. And I understand that for some people that's a little bit, I don't want to say concerning, because I don't think anyone's concerned that I don't know this information. But it's not what they are hoping for, right? They want to have that information. Because more information, good, yay. We have the undead configuration, so that's nice. But anyways, the fact that I don't know how Immolate's damage is calculated is not as relevant as knowing that it deals damage that way, right? If I know how the math works, it won't change my decision to use Immolate where I use Immolate. Because I can tell Immolate is good in these locations, it's not good in these ones. It doesn't matter how the math works for me to come to that conclusion, which is why I haven't, like, tested it, which is why I don't have any of the math looked up, because it's possible someone else has done all this legwork for me. Here we switch to the Holy Daggers because we're not full health. We have some health that we can recover from the Holy Procs. It's not a whole lot, but there is a little bit. There we go, we got a proc. I want to say we get 65 health back every time we get a proc. The amount of health we get back is based off of our base magic defense. It's 10% of your base magic defense is the amount of health you get back for a Holy Proc. We have like 650 base magic defense, which is quite good. So we get a lot of health back when we proc the Holy thing. That's like the only good thing about our build, frankly. Our magic defense is quite good. Physical defense, not so much. We have like, I think we have like less than 300 physical defense, something like that. Or maybe it's like really close to 300. It's pretty low. But getting 65 health back per proc is pretty good, because usually we're in the, like, no more than 30 range. I mean, 65 health, that's 2 procs, and we've gained more than 100, right? So, 2 procs, and we're almost at 150 more health. So, it's pretty good. So, we're going to Shadowsnare here. It just keeps us safe. These guys are consistently annoying. The most dangerous guys in here are the casters, because they won't walk into my Shadowshackles as often, but Combustion is just such a dangerous move. They also have more magic defense, so they're a little bit more resistant than otherwise. Not that that really changes how we fight them. Because they're not resistant to the point that I need to consider using Immolate. And that's another good example of me not knowing exactly how resistant they are, because it's irrelevant. It doesn't change. It doesn't change how we have to think about the game. And I think that's an important distinction, not specifically for this game, but for a lot of things in general with people. They want to know how something works so that they can make the optimal decision. Which is fine, I love doing that, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. But after a certain point, when a game doesn't give you that information, people will get very frustrated, but they miss the fact that they don't need that precise information to make the decision anyway. Because with just the testing of, does this work or does this not, that is, a pass-fail test is good enough for Immolate, is the thing. We don't need math involved to figure out whether something works or not. Now, we could get math involved to figure out if something is optimal over something else if the two are very close. But if they're not close, as always, we can just use one, then use the other, and go, yeah, okay, that one was more. Here we have the Heaven Keys out, not because we want the Holy Procs, although the Holy Procs would be nice, I suppose. We have the Heaven Keys because eyeball enemies are always weak to Holy. Gazer, Vile Eyes, Evil Eyeball, all of those enemies are weak to Holy. So, having the Heaven's Keys, it just does more damage. Now, this guy is also fairly weak to physical, so Flameshroud wouldn't be a bad decision. It's just we don't need to use it yet. It doesn't really do much. We will use it here for style points, though, because we can just stand next to this thing. But this is just for the style points, not for the like effectiveness. What I was trying to do was cancel the Immolate while the magic bolt that is going to kill it is in the air. Because if you do that, you can cancel the Immolate before it lands, and you basically don't have Immolate going for that cutscene. In our practice attempts, we managed to do that a few times, but we failed there, unfortunately. Again, it's just for the style points. It's not. It is not more substantive than just hitting it with the daggers, because we have plenty of damage. We could have killed it easily with just striking it with the Heaven's Key. But yeah, it's just a fun thing to do. Here, I'm trying to debate. What I was looking at is whether I want to use the King Warsh or not to heal up. I basically, since I know I will take damage throughout this run, I want to be a miser with my curatives. I want to just hold on to them, not use them. And to do that, I want to make sure that when I do use them, it's for the highest value. So I want 100% of the King Warsh to be utilized. And there it was going to heal me to full, and so that means presumably there's at least some percentage of the total heal that won't be put towards my health bar, because it'll be beyond my health bar, and that's not valuable to me. Especially since I'm not about to fight something that's going to one-shot me from this amount of health. If I was, I would use that King Warsh, but we're not there yet. Fortress of Remembrance. This has these 3 poison undead, but also a group of wards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aggro the wards And I want them to get caught here, but a lot of times they'll jump over it. What I should do is actually back up even further than what I did, because it makes it so that I'm not close enough for them to jump at me. And instead what happens is they run into it completely. There are 6 of them. I should drop another Shadowsnare. I don't know why I haven't yet. There we go. Now here is a great time to use the Holy Daggers because I want the health back. At 65 health per proc-ish, I'm pretty happy. Is it 65? Let's see how much we get. Yeah, it's close. It's really close. It does vary. The amount will vary because what happens is our amount of magic defense is probably something like 64-8 or 65-3 or something like that. So what happens is we'll get either a higher or a lower amount of health occasionally because it will average out over time, which is a surprising fact. I thought it would just take the... I always assumed it would round, but it does make it an average over time, which is kind of interesting. Here we're going to have leaf worms on our left, so I'm going to avoid them by holding off to the right. If I wanted, I could kill them, but it's not valuable. If we were using any other weapon, I would kill them. And by that I mean like a sword or mace or longsword or hammer. Any other physical weapon, I would do it. The problem with the daggers is, to get the proc from Holy, I need to hit it with at least 2 daggers, and we just kill them all in one hit, if I remember correctly. So I'm not going to get the Holy proc, because leaf worms and spiders and things like that are very susceptible to the elemental effects. The problem is, with daggers, because when you press the light attack button, you swing twice, you won't get the proc on the first swing, and if we kill them on the first swing, we'll just never get the proc. It's just one of the downsides. The upside is that your damage over time, like your damage per second, is quite good. Well, I wasn't sure that one was it. So, I was going to say silver for some reason. But ice daggers are quite good because they're also good against these banshees. It's very nice that we can use both on the same enemy, because that doesn't always happen. Or not on the same enemy. We can use the same weapon for both enemies. She will get her yell off, but she'll get snared once she is done. Like that. I was aware that she does not... That does not interrupt her. What I should have done is grabbed her and thrown her first, but I had already committed to the cast, so I was like, well, might as well. I also thought I could maybe get away in time, and clearly we did not. But again, it doesn't really make a huge difference. Obviously, Shadowshackle really good against the Saurian because they just get stuck and we can hit them with a jug of water. Here I'm switching to Holy. It's not going to be better damage than the Shield Razors, I don't believe, although here we're going to Magic Rebalancer, so it might be because of that. But what I'm going to try and get is a Holy proc. Now, this room configuration, we actually got the nicer one. We don't have to deal with Ghosts or the Fire Drake. Not that the Fire Drake is, like, particularly awful. It's just a lot more dangerous of a fight than the Sirens plus the Golems that are going to be in the next room anyway, after we get past the spiders. I don't even recall if we even got a single proc there. I wasn't paying attention. I don't think we did. We maybe had one proc of the Holy, which is fine. Like, I don't... Again, we're not at a health point where anything one-shots us, so I'm not trying to specifically get health back. But yeah, if I was hitting these spiders with the sword, something that only swings once per light attack, I would be getting a Holy proc back every single time, and we'd be very happy with that. But because I'm using daggers and every swing is 2 swings, yeah, 30-48, that's the amount of maximum health we have. Oof. It's less than 3k. Yikes. But yeah, because we're using the daggers, we just don't get those healing procs, which is unfortunate. Because I do like using the spiders to heal and things like that. So here we have 4 sirens, 2 on either side of the room. I'm going to stand here so that they notice me. I don't want to get too close to them because the golems might stand up, and I don't want the golems to stand before I've had enough time to deal with these guys. Girls, I should say. Gals. Some scaly bird women. I do think that it is interesting that they gave them like the harpy configuration, but with like scales. It's interesting. I do love the design for creatures in this game. I know that like harpy enemies are not like the most exciting enemy, but like they still made this harpy enemy fairly unique and interesting, in my opinion. I did know that there was one left. I might switch to the dark daggers here. Yeah. As we mentioned with the very first siren back in the Garden of Ignominy, they are weak to darkness. The darkness. So we're kind of fortunate in that we managed to pull just this guy by himself. What's also nice is because we're using elemental daggers, we will know for sure which medallion will break it. It's going to be the hand, because we deal elemental damage, which is you have to deal some form of magic damage to the target to have the medallion show, apparently. For whatever reason, I didn't think it had to be magic damage, but that was just faulty memory. I'm talking about like months ago when I was like, why isn't it showing? It's because I forgot you had to deal magic damage. But yeah, because we're using the elemental daggers, we get to see which one it is, so we don't have any confusion there. Magic Rebalancer, not doing anything for us. And I wasn't talking because I wanted to show that first. I don't know why I used it there. It's possible I was talking to chat and someone asked me if it worked, and I was like, I don't think so, but let's test. It doesn't. And it shouldn't, because Magic Rebalancer just, it's a demon parry act is how it works. It just does the magic portion. That was kind of nice, but also kind of not nice. But anyway, it just buffs our magic damage. Using the daggers alone is going to buff the magic portion of the daggers. These guys are immune to it. Now, if I had done Magic Rebalancer and then used Immolate, then we would have had a different situation, because it would improve the damage of Immolate, the physical portion of Immolate's damage, because the ability scales off of both physical and our magic damage. For whatever reason, I don't know. Again, the math, I don't know. I don't get it. But it's irrelevant. I just know that it does. So using Magic Rebalancer into Flameshroud would have done more damage, but we didn't use Flameshroud because we don't have to. We stagger this guy pretty consistently when we're hitting a medallion, and with that we're happy. Now back to the Fortress of Remembrance. This is the only other time we backtrack. Even if enough time had come by to respawn enemies, we wouldn't have to deal with them because they are too far away from us. If we had the other configuration, there's a possibility that we have to, and it does occasionally happen, but there's a possibility we could have had to kill the corrupted pawns that would be to our right. But for that to happen, we basically have to have another day turnover while we are in that room. So we have to either be on a very fast run where we get to like 40 minutes in that room, or it has to be a very slow run where we get to like an hour and 20-ish or an hour and 30-ish when it does the switch. Holy Daggers for 2 reasons. 1, we want the health back. 2, it deals better damage against the Lich that is in the air. I should have Shadowshackle that guy first, so that's okay. Ooh, that was a little bit close. This guy's probably... No, he just dies. This guy's probably going to fall if he stays facing that direction. Now the Lich, we can use Immolate and it will deal decent damage to him. The problem is, with every melee fight against the Lich, it's difficult to do that. It's just difficult to hit them in general. Fortunately, with Immolate, when we do get to hit them, we do good damage, especially with Magick Rebalancer, because Immolate does nice damage. Even just that the Daggers, Magick Rebalancer does good damage, because these guys are weak to Holy, so Magick Rebalancer is a quite nice tool to have. What's nice about Magick Rebalancer is not only does it improve our magic offenses, it also improves the defenses, and since these guys deal exclusively magic damage, having higher magic defense is just valuable. It's just valuable. I don't know what I'm waiting on. Yeah, I said if he's using Trigger, it's going to show up underneath me, so I should either cast it or cancel it, one of the two. We caught him on fire, which is nice. Yeah, you see when we're close to him and we get to hit him, we actually deal decent damage. Like we hit him with 4 slashes of the daggers, 2 twice, and he's missing almost a complete health bar at this stage, which is honestly decent, considering we are using daggers, right? It's not like we have a sword that deals more damage per hit. We have daggers. Against an enemy that's in the air. Ugh. We got a holy proc as well, so that was nice. Say we should be able to kill it here. Nice. We got another holy proc too. Very cool. Interventive, that's a useful thing. Once again, we do get debilitated a couple times. Having interventive is nice. It's also a good emergency rescue curative if we run out of stamina and have a little bit of health we can recover. It's not how I would choose to use it, but if we're going to be stationary when someone's trying to hit us with something because we've run out of stamina on accident, it is nice to have. Because we have the undead configuration, when we go left, there's going to be a couple poison undead to kill. I should be Magick Rebalancering. I'm not, for whatever reason. Shadowsnare is the play, though. There we go. I should have used Magick Rebalancer before snaring them, because it would just give me, it would be just a little bit quicker, I guess. It's probably not that much quicker, actually. It's probably about the same, but the concern is here the Shadowsnare might wear off before we kill the second one, and then I have to do it again. Whereas if I Magick Rebalancer beforehand, it should last long enough for me to kill both of them. And we're full health now, so we could switch to the Sapfire Daggers for subsequent Poison Undead. There, we killed him right as the Shadowsnare wore off, so that actually wasn't a problem doing it in that sequence. This room, the enemies spawn, but they spawn late a lot of the time. If we come down here, a lot of times they'll respawn, so sometimes we'll end up going back up to fight them. I think I did just hear the Banshee do her little gasp thing, so I don't know if I heard it in real time when I was doing the run. Probably not, because it was very subtle just there. Because usually if I notice that it spawned, I'll go back up. But we're not moving back up, so it's whatever. Yeah, the enemies in that room will sometimes spawn, they sometimes won't. I don't really know what the deal is. All three of these guys get stuck. Very weak. They are not strong in general. But they're also weak to Holy. Makes it additionally easier. I don't want anything to do with Combustion, so we'll stay back here. Holy Daggers, like I said before, we would actually be a little bit better served using the Sapfires as far as damage on these guys goes. However, because there's that Lich, and the Lich is weak to Holy, I want to have Holy Daggers just in case he gives me like an attack of opportunity. If he comes down and he's in a position where I could potentially move over and hit him, I want to. And I want to deal the most damage I can, because these guys I'm guaranteed to hit just by swinging at him. Him, not so much. Lich, I mean, not so much. So I want to give myself the best circumstance to hit him. So what I'm doing when I'm prepping that Flameshroud is I'm casting it with the hopes that he gets close to the ground. If he gets close to the ground, what I'll do is I'll finish the cast, and then I'll immediately run over to hit him. But when he casts a different spell, I cancel it so that he doesn't just hit me with the spell. And there's no point in me casting Flameshroud early, because it's just going to lead to a bunch of health loss. It's just going to lead to health loss, as well as there's a possibility that he doesn't get close to the ground during the duration, so I'll just lose a bunch of health and never get the opportunity to hit. Perfect. Oh my goodness. We just barely, like, drifted away from him, and of course I cancel it as he gets low to the ground and then back up. Fighting these guys is always annoying as a melee person. They're just not designed for us, which is, again, it's a design choice. They're not designed to be attacked from melee. They're designed to be attacked from range as part of a party of 4 people, or at least 2. Because this game is designed around having a party. So it's hard to get upset about a design that doesn't work out for us, but man, is it frustrating when you're trying to do a solo run as like a fighter or a warrior, or in this case, a melee-only magic archer. But it is frustrating when you're trying to hit these guys and they just don't give you the tools. They don't give you the opportunities. Fortunately, they are not strong, and they are very easy to evade, usually. So we can just be patient and then kill him when he gives us that opportunity. There's that opportunity. That's what we were looking for. I didn't mean to pick that up, so we'll discard it. And we'll move along. Okay, Magic Rebalancer here is actually a pretty good idea, because depending on which room configuration we have, we'll want the higher stats. If we have the Banshee configuration, I'll want to kill the first one very quickly. Which I want to say we do get. And we do. So the Tower of Treasons Repaid can have two configurations. This one, which is Skeletal, Sorcerers, and Banshees. And then another one, which is... That was a little bit unfortunate that 11 came down there. What I wanted to do was pick her up and throw her over the side. But she, I couldn't grab because she screamed right when that 11 was about to hit. So I had Chilled Razors because it's better against the Banshees. But realistically, we've used Gravity thus far anyway, so it's not overly relevant. But that's okay. Obviously here it's nice. Fortunately, we don't take that much damage from Ingle because we have Magic Rebalancer stacked. It gives us magic defense, and it is quite good. It is quite good. 4 stacks of Magic Rebalancer, or Magic Rebuffer for that matter, because Magic Rebuffer, the first version, doesn't give us magic strength or magic damage, it just gives us magic defense, which is, again, valuable. Not as valuable, obviously, because we only kill things faster, but like in a room like this where we get casted on a couple times, it has its value. So for this guy, we can't reach him. There's no way for us to deal damage to him. However, we can still get him killed. And the way we go about killing him, that is unfortunate. We caught fire. So, us catching fire there is, putting on the Rose Ring won't prevent us from being on fire. Like, it won't cleanse us of our flames. Interventive would have done that, but it wouldn't cleanse us of our flames putting the Rose Ring on, so I just kind of let it slide. But it's unfortunate that we caught fire because catching fire dealt way more damage than the actual Ingle slap itself because of how much magic defense we have with Magic Rebalancer. Again, Gravity. I walked up the stairs before doing that because that ramp is just slightly too low to kill them from full health, so I have to get a little bit higher. And so usually I just walk up to the top of this balcony and then throw it. What'll happen if I just throw it from where they start is oftentimes they will, they'll just survive with a sliver of health and I have to kill them. But I want them to die immediately so that they don't scream while I'm on the ground and mess me up and cause me to get by something else. But anyway, this skeleton, what we're doing is we're standing up here because there's the opening to the cage that he is in is on this side, and every time he casts, he steps forward just a little bit, and so he falls out, which is what just happened. That's how you deal with that guy as a melee only. A lot of times I'll just leave him because it's tedious and we don't really do anything, but for whatever reason we decided to kill him that way today. Well, not today, but a couple weeks ago when we actually did this run. It has been a couple weeks. Like I said, I am in the middle of moving, so I haven't even streamed for 2 weeks, and we had completed this run like the week before that. So it's probably been like 3 or 4 weeks since I actually recorded this. But it can't be helped. Like I said, I'm in the middle of moving. So, which is both exciting and extremely stressful. So this one is probably the one that fell off early. One of the, not that we threw off, but fell off. One of them that's on the second walkway, we never hit. She just fell before we got to interact with her. I should be switching to the Heaven's Keys, but I'm waiting for these guys to get snared first. Because when I switch weapons, it's going to change. It's going to go away. And I'll need to put down a new Shadowsnare. But if I cancel the first one before they get snared initially, what'll end up happening is they'll just hit me before I can cast the Shadowsnare. But if they're staggered in the Shadowsnare, and then I cancel it by switching weapons and immediately start casting, I'll have enough time before they reach me. So that was a calculated change. Those are the little tiny things that matter in terms of making the system work for you so that you don't get hit. Those are the things that those little interactions, by the way, are the things I love about no-hit puns. Figuring out, like, how to make it so that an enemy doesn't have an opportunity to do anything to you. That scared me because I didn't know where he would land, and I was afraid it would be on top of my head. If you saw, I just rolled. It wasn't because I wanted to avoid getting staggered. It was because I didn't know if it was going to be on top of my face or not. If it was going to hurt. Here we need to avoid that. What I find annoying is if you saw the trajectory of that attack was like to my right. It was not right on top of me, it was to my right. And then after you saw it come out, it just like shifts a little bit to hit me. Very annoying. Also, not unexpected. It happens fairly consistently that it does that, but not every time. So sometimes you're like, hey, I'm good. And then other times you're like, oh no, I wasn't. Just kidding. There I was checking to see if I had the right range of whip, which I did. I probably, in real time, remembered looking at putting the rose ring on because we caught fire, but then didn't remember that we actually chose not to put it on. Once again, as with the Cursed Dragon we fought in the Duskmoon Tower, torporing it with the Shadowsnare is valuable. Also, once again, messing up our timing because he's torporing. Getting thrown off both physically and with our timing. That's okay, we should deal enough damage to like kill him here. Even taking the shake stamina loss, just because we deal so much overwhelming damage with Immolate. We also have Adhesion, so when he shakes, we don't, while we still lose stamina, we don't necessarily get staggered out of our attacks. That's why we have Adhesion. If we wanted, we could have gone Adhesion plus Opportunism and gotten rid of probably Awareness, which is our magic defense, because we get good magic defense with Magic Rebalancer anyway. But realistically, it's just not necessary. Vile Eyes configuration. This is the configuration I would prefer. I always attack the Vile Eyes first because the Goblins I'm always allowed to hit. The Vile Eyes I can only hit when they're casting or about to do their Gaze ability. And having to wait for that timing is a bit annoying when I can just run and kill them immediately and then it's not a big deal. Flameshroud because I know this can have both very good curatives as well as a Man-Eater. In this case, we only got Rift Crystals, which isn't terrible. I don't have all of the rings I need for all of the runs this character has planned, so getting Rift Crystals isn't bad, but I mostly did that because I know I can get like a Lordly Tonic in that chest, which would be quite good. Frankly, it's probably considerable overkill for the amount of health that we have. We only have 3,045 health, I think is what it was. Shadowsnare to prevent this guy from casting. Then we deal with goblins. I don't really need holy damage. These guys aren't weak to holy damage or anything. Sapphires would be better because the higher physical stat. But the Heaven's Key physical stat is fine, and then holy is better against this guy. As you can see, we're not dealing nearly as much damage as we dealt against the Silver Knight when we were in the Ward of Regret, because we don't have Magic Rebalancer stacked. But he's stunned anyway, it doesn't really matter. We could cast Magic Rebalancer here, And all it would do is reduce the number of swings we have. It wouldn't really reduce the amount of time it takes to kill him, simply because we would have to cast the spell first. So we just beat him up. Here we're going to have Corrupted Pawns as well as Goblins. Goblins, Magic Rebalancer doesn't help us do anything other than not take damage. Against the Pawns, it's a little bit useful, so we'll go ahead and buff, but I could have easily chosen not to do this, and we'd still be okay. Because, like, we deal good damage against these guys anyway, because these guys are more resistant to magic than they are physical anyhow. So just the Magic Rebalancer just has such minimal benefit against the mages, and no benefit really against the goblins, that stacking it's kind of irrelevant. But you know, we're in the habit of stacking it like every fight, and I'm sure we'll stack it again before we fight our... There it was useful, because we could have taken a lot more damage against those magic bolts there, but again, it wouldn't have been necessary. If we hadn't done that, we probably wouldn't have gotten hit in the first place. You know, 6-1, half dozen the other, you know, whatever. Here we're going to rebuff, because we're going to want to have maximum uptime on our Magic Rebalancer to fight Dark Bishop. Dark Bishop fight's pretty cool. We get to run in, we get to kill the dragon very quickly. Then we're going to switch to the Kunai. The dragon's weak to Holy and Fire. The, not really, I mean, it's weak to Holy. It's not overly weak to Fire, but it is vulnerable. It will catch flame. Here we'll Immolate as well, or Flameshroud, because he takes good physical damage too. We should absolutely butter through this guy if we actually hit him. And then we'll switch to the Kunai, because the Dark Bishop is weak to Dark. At this stage, what we're kind of waiting for is the Bishop's going to drop a little pustule thing first. I need him to drop that before I really do anything else. This is going to be a Fervor. Fervor gets cast wherever we were standing when he started the ability, so right where I'm standing like right now. I don't know why I had stayed in there. That was kind of silly of me. But because we have Magic Rebalancer stacked already, we actually prevented ourselves from taking damage, even though we actually had the indicator that we got hit twice, I want to say. We saw the indicator. So Dark Bishop's weak to Dark, like I said. Weak to Bludgeoning, though, so our daggers are kind of meh. The Kunai actually aren't overly strong in the first place. Strong enough, certainly, for things that are weak to Dark, but they're not, like, most impressive. The Sapfires would probably be somewhat similar if we had a decent strength stat as well. But because we don't, the Kunai are our choice. The Kunai are definitely our choice now that our strength debilitation popped up. But yeah. Basically, our objective at the moment was to get enough health on this guy that when the dragon respawns, we can kill it quickly. And, or rather, that when the dragon respawns, the bishop wants to go inside the dragon, which we managed to do. If you don't deal enough damage, sometimes when you kill the bishop, the dragon, or sorry, when you kill the dragon, I'm sorry. When the bishop resurrects the dragon, the bishop won't enter the dragon, and when the Bruce Lee movie doesn't come out, we don't get the bishop knocked on the ground like this, which, as you can see, is when we really start to shine, because we can hit the Kunai much more consistently, and then eventually we'll get the crits because we're hitting enough times, and then the crits deal considerably damage. Yeah, all we needed to do was knock it down once. Pretty good. And we did not get the staff there. On one of our practice runs, we got the staff drop, which does not happen very often. And that'll do it for Dark Bishop. It's my favorite fight in the game. I love it. Cool mechanics. But that'll be it for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you are enjoying the run so far. It's one I would recommend. It's pretty cool. But we are going to stop it here for today, and we're going to pick up the run in the next video, where we will finish it out. I want to thank you guys for watching once again. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you aren't already. I'm hoping to put out a few more runs soon. I have like 3 more lined up. But cheers, everybody.